you so much for being here. I've been very excited for this specific conversation, just off of the last conversation that we had together.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
It's my pleasure. So my followers and listeners, they know me. I like to get straight into the deep story because this is all about transformational stories. And I always like to ask my guests some icebreaker questions. And this is the one that came through for you from me, is if you can go back to 18-year-old Jefferson, what would 18-year-old Jefferson think of you today? Do you think this was his vision of you? Or do you think that he'd be surprised with where you are today?
Yeah, it's an emotional question.
Yeah, take your time.
I think my 18-year-old self would be surprised at where I am today. At that age, I didn't have any goals, very little ambition. I had been partying for a couple of years already at 18. And, the only thing that I was looking forward to was, where's the next party? How do I get some more weed? So, yeah, it gets me a little choked up to think about if I had an opportunity to talk to myself at 18 years old, what that would look like. Yeah.
The reason why I asked this question is because I've done my research and we've talked, and I know a little bit about your story. It's a very profound and incredible and very unique story, yet very relatable right now in this generation, because a lot of people are, especially since COVID happened, a lot of people have been, instead of working on themselves, they are just, going out to parties or looking for the next substance to be able to numb the pain and the trauma and whatnot. And, I would love for you to kind of walk us through your story of, how you became who you are today and what was the turning point?
Yeah, it was a long road. I knew that I was capable of doing incredible things with my life, not quite to the extent that I have, just because I had a great upbringing. I had a mom that believed in me and instilled a lot of confidence in me from a young age. I was and still am the oldest of 4 boys. And I was named after my dad, which is an incredible human being. So, I had a lot to live up to. I had a lot of responsibility as the older brother. And then, growing up, I was told over and over and over the example that I was to my brothers, and that it was a powerful position to be in, and that they're watching me very closely. And I chose to go down a path that they followed pretty closely down, that was a pretty close representation of what my mom told me would happen. So that always kind of haunted me a little bit about the power that I had as a leader and as an older brother. As close as my brothers did follow down that path with drinking and smoking weed, thank goodness they never got into anything too much crazier. I had one brother that had gotten into some cocaine and things like that, but he's since been sober for now close to a year and a half. But it was a long journey. I think one of the reasons why I started getting into drugs and alcohol was because of that responsibility. And what a lot of people do is they numb this sense of responsibility with substances. And I didn't have a whole lot of supervision from the time I was 10 years old. My parents got divorced and we're both working like crazy. And I had 3 little brothers, and we pretty much raised ourselves. So, not a ton of direction. I had great parents, but outside of them, not a whole lot of positive influences in my life, especially when I started hanging around the group of kids that I did. So for years and years and years, I just kept repeating these patterns and numbing the pain, numbing the responsibility, and suppressing the potential that I knew that I had. And it took a long time. And finally, in my late 20s, I started to be introduced to a new group of people. And finally, for the first time, had, a great mentor in my life that taught me what was possible coming from, similar background, party in small town, small business that he owned for himself, just struggling day to day. to then, at that point in his life when I knew him was making a great income, had a great family, and taught me a lot about what was possible for myself. And so over a period of 6 or 7 years, still battling with addiction, but now getting a taste of what the potential could look like if I could get clear of some of these distractions and the addictions, just little by little planting seeds, doing personal development, starting to read books, starting to at least think about some of the work that I wanted to do on myself. And then, had an opportunity to get involved with an actual mentor program in 2017. And since that time, that was kind of that big turning point. There had been a lot of seeds planted along the way, but the big turning point was getting involved with a mentor and the mentees. There was a couple hundred mentees that were a part of that group that were a big part of the success story as well. Just kind of getting surrounded by an incredible community of people that were operating at a high level with other success stories and, more possibilities of what I could see coming to reality for myself. And now over the past 5 years, I've gone from, struggling with addiction and being on the verge of losing my marriage and my family and, potentially going to jail and, driving drunk all the time, to now I've been sober for 4.5 years. I've built an incredible business over the, close to the same time frame that's produced over $35 million in revenue. And we're on track to do close to 20 million in revenue just this year alone, with some incredible things that I'm also working on with, developing real estate, raising money for projects and big partnerships. I'm writing a book, got my own podcast. I mean, there's an incredible amount of things that have happened in a short period of time, just by finally starting to tap into my potential and get some of the big negative distractions and destructive behaviors out of my way.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, because I know it's not always easy to share and be transparent and vulnerable, especially coming from a male perspective, because in society, our world has told males, be a man and shut up and just suck it up, and just move on. But I think now we're in a world where men really need that type of support and for us to hold the space for each other, because at the end of the day, we're all one. And I think I want to kind of rewind back to your story of when you were in the car and you were rolling through Facebook.
Yeah.
When the turning point happened. So walk us through that, because I think that is such a great point also for our listeners to listen to, how you even came across this mentorship program.
It was the right place at the right time. I was actually supposed to be working, but I was stalling. The hardest door when you knock doors is your car door. And I was stuck in the car scrolling Facebook. There had been a turn of events that had happened leading up to that, where I'd gotten in a fight at a concert. And I kind of ruined the whole night, got the car impounded. We had to get a ride home from somebody else, all packed in this little tiny car. I was supposed to take my son to his birthday party the next morning in the car that got impounded. And I was too hungover to even hang out. So my wife had to take care of everything, Ubered all the kids. I was sick on the bench, going back and forth to the bathroom. And it was 2 months after that, I was trying to make up for it. And it was kind of a shameful moment in my life. My whole family's seen me go through this. And it was an ad for a mentor program on Facebook. I wasn't looking for ads. I wasn't looking for a mentor group. But, the person that the message came from at this time in my life, at a fairly low point, it was just right place, right time. And it was a mentor group that was leading up to an event. And I ended up calling my wife because it was $1,100 investment. And it was a tough phone call, because I checked the bank account before I called her, because I knew that we were, we didn't have a whole lot of money. We were paycheck to paycheck. We had rent and bills, and kids are expensive. And, when you don't make all that much money, and it's painful. Mm-hmm. So I made that phone call and told her that I just checked the bank account, and I'm thinking about making this investment in this mentor program. I really think it could help me. And this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. So this is new for her. It's new for me. And I didn't know what she was going to say, but, thank God she trusted me. And she says, if you think that this is what it is and that this can help, I've got your back. And
wow.
I spent our last $1,100 that we had in the bank account to go be a part of this mentor program. And it completely changed my life. Over the next couple months after that, because of being a part of that mentor group and new habits, new discipline, being around other successful people, I made up for that $1,100 pretty quick. And since then, there's been this chain of events that has happened that's been just an incredible, like, storybook type of scenario where I've gone from, I was making 75 grand a year, miserable, drunk, hiding things from my wife because I didn't want her to know how much I was actually drinking, to now been sober, got an incredible business, saved my marriage, and, it's stronger than ever. And we've got beautiful home and beautiful family and business and multiple businesses. And God, it's just incredible what has happened since that one decision. Scary and uncertain if it was even going to work. Used all my last of my money, and it was best investment I ever made.
And this is such a beautiful story. And the reason why I really wanted you to share that is because I'm really big on synchronicities, and that when you are asking, you're going to also receive the answer. So during that time, you already had the will. And I always look at ourselves like magnets. So you already were emanating into the universe that you needed some sort of support. You needed some sort of pathway to get on a path that will not just only be able to solidify your, your gifts and your abilities and give you the beautiful things that you want into this life so you can serve, but also for your family. So it wasn't just about you. It was about your wife. It was about your kids. And it was about you giving back to humanity. And that, you sitting in the car and just kind of going through Facebook and that coming up, that was not a coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidences in this life, but it's really about you picking up the call, your calling, if you're really willing to actually do the work. And I kind of want to shift into when you started doing the self-development. So you made the decision, you started taking this mentorship program, and then you're like, it's time for me to get sober. And during that time, it's a rough time because now your chemicals are all over the place. Because we know, if you're smoking weed or if you're used to drinking, your body starts to get used to these substances. And when you're not taking these substances anymore, what was happening to you during, because I'm sure you probably had withdrawals or you went through your own type of, uncomfortability during that time. So what was the experience like for you, and how would that be able to help somebody else right now that's going through something similar?
You know what? It was, I wasn't expecting for there to be any side effects. I had hangovers all the time, but when I decided to quit, I went straight to work the other day. I was working out of town, and the day that I quit, I had the conversation with my wife that had been, a conversation I'd been putting off for years and years and years, but finally admitted that I had a problem. I needed help. I don't ever want to go to an AA meeting. I'd been to an AA meeting before. It was the most miserable, negative place that I'd ever been, and vowed that I would never go back to that place. Mm-hmm. But, I didn't know how else I was going to do it besides, we just got to stick together. I need some accountability. I need your help. And I took off that day with a commitment to her that I was going back to a place where it was easy for me. I was by myself to go drink and smoke weed like I did every day before that. But I just decided that, that was enough. I told her that I was going to commit, and that's exactly what I was going to do. And I've been sober ever since that day. But then I was not expecting what happened after that, because within 18 hours, I was starting to feel these flu symptoms come on, and I'm supposed to be out, working for the next week straight. And I knew that it was coming. I didn't realize that it was, a detox or withdrawals or anything at the time. I just thought that I had, it was the middle of January. I thought I was getting the flu or something. And I hauled ass back home. It was 400 miles away. I just went back home because I knew my wife was there and she could take care of me. And for the next 5 days, I laid in bed, just sick and miserable and like very little strength to even get up to go to the bathroom. And, there's a lot of self-sabotage and uncertainty and, these limiting beliefs that I had built up over time that now start to compound because I'm in this weak state of mind and I'm questioning my manhood and my ability to support my family because I'd barely been scraping by for them. Mm. And on that last day laying in bed, I'd had this idea of starting a business, and I had this chip on my shoulder about this partnership that never happened. And that last day I made a commitment. I started putting together a game plan, and I came out the other side of that sickness with, more clarity than I'd ever had and more driven than I'd ever been. And within 2 months I had started my business, and, it's been all up and up from then. So
what I'm understanding, it's, first of all, again, making the decision, being intentional, purposeful with what it is that you're wanting to gain out of this life. And then also having the support system and being honest with yourself that, hey, there's a challenge that I'm currently in and I really need the support and the help. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, we all struggle with, at some level, asking for help.
Totally.
And that's why it took me so long to have that conversation, because I knew I needed help. I just didn't know how to ask for it. Mm. And until I could get to that place where I could ask for help and commit to somebody that I was going to make the change. I'm a person of high integrity, and I think that most people naturally are.
Yeah.
So once I made that commitment, that's all it took. It was just like it flipped a switch for me. I didn't need any courses. I didn't need any pills or patches or, the same thing happened when I quit cigarettes. It was just like, once I made the decision and I admitted that I had a problem and I said that I was going to make the commitment, then it was just, dealing with all the pain and the agony and the questions about, what my life looks like without the substances. And turns out I'm just as good at karaoke without being a drunk. And the stress and anxiety that I thought that I was suppressing with the weed was just all a bunch of made up BS in my head. Mm-hmm. And it's been, now over the last couple of years, I've gotten to a place where I'm confident enough to talk about it. It wasn't all that easy in the beginning because I didn't feel like I'd earned the right to talk about it. But now, I realize that there's so many more people dealing with this than most any other type of personal issues. Addiction is a huge one. And it's possible for anybody to be able to overcome it. You just got to have the belief in yourself that you can do it. You got to have a strong support system. And AA is not always the answer. I had a terrible experience with AA, but there's other resources. There's other people that have been through it that are willing to help. And now I have people reach out to me all the time asking for help and direction because, they're in a similar place to where I was early on in the process of dealing with addiction, is not knowing what to do or how to do it. And I knew it just wasn't aligning with who I wanted to be, but there's a lot of uncertainty about what my life looks like without the substances. And turns out it's pretty dang awesome.
Mm-hmm. And you are an example. And that's why I was very intentional and purposeful when I prayed about the right person to put on the podcast. And then, I've told you I was on TikTok and you're all over social media. So you have a really wonderful following, but it's because you have the message and your intention is very clear. It's very pure and you're wanting to help. And, I love that you actually respond back to people, because when I reached out, I really was not sure if you were going to respond, because I know, again, multiple businesses, lots of following. Sometimes we have social media team and you don't even check your DMs. But when I heard back, I was like, this is the right guy and it's the right time. And it's time to be able to start uncovering these types of stories, especially coming from a male perspective. Because it's always easier to honestly to talk with women because we are so used to being emotional and sensitive and, talking about how we feel. But for men, it's not yet at a place where men can openly just say, yeah, I had a challenge and I needed help from my wife, who's a woman, and to be able to support me. And love heals. Love does heal, and you have to be intentional. And speaking of intention, I know you're very intentional with your children. And the other day I was looking also on your social media, and you're very specific about how you program your children with certain words that they can use and they shouldn't use. And one of the words that you told your kids that they should not use is can't. So why do you think it's important for you to tell your children do not use the word can't? And where did this even come from for you?
Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of great mentors in my life, and it came from one of my mentors.
Mm.
He was an old man. It had been years and years and years since he had raised his kids, but they had went on to do very successful things with their lives and married incredible spouses and had incredible careers. And he was so proud of some of the things that he did, even though I'm sure that there were some things that he wasn't so proud of because he was a busy businessman. But one of the things that he told me that I'll never forget is that the words that you allow your kids to say are going to program them in their beliefs and the things that they go on to do in their life. And he said that from a very young age that he would make his kids do 10 push-ups if they ever said, I can't. Didn't matter what it was or how simple or silly, was not allowed in their house, or 10 push-ups are being had.
Oh, wow.
And so that's my little girls and my son and me and my wife. It's like, if they catch me saying something, I got a bad leg, and sometimes I'll say that I can't run because I mean, my leg has been destroyed twice. And I have a really hard time running. And then I'm like dragging it around like a stump for a couple of days. But they know that if they call me out and I say it, then I'm doing my 10 push-ups too.
I love that.
And, you know, there's a lot of other things too. There's a lot of parents out there that use things like be careful and all these things that keep our kids from being able to go out there and experience life and make mistakes and get hurt and pick themselves back up. So I also, when my wife tells my kids to be careful, I've also told them to tell mom, you can be careful. I'm going to be dangerous.
And how did you handle that?
And she wasn't so sure about it in the beginning, but now it's been a couple of years and she's on board. It's like, you know, we are a family unit. We make decisions together, and we've had the conversation enough times now that she knows that, you know, I want my kids to be able to get their butt kicked and get hurt and get scraped up and break stuff like I did when I was a kid, and pick myself up and have enough courage to go out there and try it again. And, you know, another thing we say is be smart. So we're not asking to be dangerous and dumb and hurt yourself for no reason. It's like, be smart, do dangerous things, but do them smart.
Yeah, I totally respect that. That's exactly how I would raise my children personally, because I know our words, they hold vibrations and they hold energy, right? So if we are constantly using words that have a negative energy to them, that's exactly what we're going to be manifesting in our life. So if I'm constantly saying, I'm broke, I don't have the money, and I can't go, then what is it that I'm actually telling the universe? I'm telling the universe, do not give me these things. Give me what I'm actually feeling, which is constantly lack. And I'm so big on, especially with younger children and adults, to program them at a young age, because why do we need to wait for them to get at an older age for them to go through trauma in order to wake up? Why not program these children at a young age so that way they can actually enjoy their life and enjoy their childhood and enjoy just being free? So I love that you guys do that. And I have so much respect for you, but I have a lot of respect for your wife, because all of these stories, it's like her being like, okay, let's go. We'll see where this goes. And it just seems now she's on board and she's like, yeah, this is the way that we live. And it's because, Jefferson, it started with you, but it didn't end with you. It's like you are building almost like an empire. This is kind of what I'm saying, that it's like started with you and it's channeling through your wife, which is channeling through your children. And then they're going to be able to go out into the world and be that type of energy to lift humanity and to give back. So thank you. I commend you for who you are, and I commend you for what you stand for and your purpose, and coming into this world with such a vulnerable, unique, awesome story and giving back. And I'm just so grateful for you to be here. I really have to say that again, because this has been one of my favorite episodes so far, because it's really tackling a issue that I have been wanting to tackle for a while. I just didn't know how. And it was because divine timing. I was waiting on you. I was waiting on you to just come across on TikTok and see your stuff and be like, yeah,
wow.
Isn't that wild?
I love that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The other thing I want to ask you about is that you're big on affirmations, and you also are really big on, on social media with telling people what your affirmations are and all of this stuff. So is this something that you use on a daily basis with your affirmations? Is it something you write, you speak into existence? How do you go about this stuff?
It is. So I've got a combination. I was just going to pull up and look at my phone here because every morning at 5:30, I have a list of affirmations that are on my calendar. And I add to them all the time. You know, sometimes one will just hit me differently and I'm kind of done with it. So I'll just take it off, but I'll just read a couple. So I do my best. I learn lessons and I have fun. I am strong. I am powerful. I am resilient. I'm so happy and grateful now that my life vision is so inspiring that I continuously expand my boundaries to move closer to my goals. And then one of my favorites when it comes to money is I'm so happy and grateful now that money flows to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. And, you know, words are so powerful.
They are.
And one of the reasons why I was able to overcome the trauma and the addictions and the destructive behaviors was because of the way that I had started to condition myself to talk. And the things that I allowed into my space, the energy, the negativity, there was no room for it anymore where I wanted to go. And I just got ultra aware of the things that were in my environment. And I got rid of all the negativity, and I wasn't all that tactful with it, honestly. I was a little rough around the edges when I was trying to figure all this stuff out. And I rubbed people the wrong way sometimes, the way that I said it and the way that I called people out and the way that they gossiped and talked about other people and their negativity. But it was just my way of needing to get that out of the way and recognizing for the first time in my life the power that it was having over me, that I didn't want to give it any more power. And then over time have, started to, I write my goals down every day. I got my goal book sitting right there. I've got my Napoleon Hill book that I'm halfway through. So the content, the affirmations, the writing my goals down every day, just filling my life full of positive content. And, there's always going to be negativity. You have to deal with it, but I just overpower it with as much positivity as I possibly can.
Yeah. And that's what I believe for me makes a successful person is like, even when you're at a place where you've hit all of your goals, you should not stop. And I'm not saying this in a way that always feel like you have to do more and you're not doing enough. No, be happy with what you have, but always want to grow and to keep going up, because our purpose is based around evolving. We are not supposed to be in a comfortable spot at all times, because then we're not really using our mind, our body, and our spirit to its actual potential. So I think this is exactly why, I still see you doing so many things in the future, and I'm excited for when you finish your book, and we'll have you back on here so you can talk about the book. But I'm assuming the book is more about your life, or what exactly is the intention behind the book that you're writing?
It is. It's called All In, Get Unstuck, Accelerate, and Go Further Faster. Okay. So it's a mix of the philosophies, the methodologies that I've used to help me accelerate the process of my life, and then mixed with all of the life lessons over the past 15 years of going through the struggles of addiction, overcoming addiction, saving my marriage, building a business, becoming a strong leader and communicator. And there's all these things that, just working alongside and with other companies as a consultant and a coach, I realized that people, mostly just don't ever have exposure to. And this is my way of giving back and sharing and, trying to make a bigger impact. In a book and the social media and the coaching and consulting, doing podcasts are just starting to scratch the surface of the type of impact that I can make on the world.
Absolutely. And do you have a launch date for the book yet, or is that still?
Spring of 2023. Yep. Okay.
I better get a book, Jefferson. I'm going to be very upset if I don't get a book.
I'm going to send you a book.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for all of that stuff. We've been through already, talked about so much from, your own addiction to you overcoming your challenge and being able to kind of really tap into that power within and let that channel into your family, and, you sharing your secrets of how you became successful, but not just on the outside, but on the inside. Mm-hmm. So typically before I end the episode, I always have my guests share either an affirmation, a prayer, or words of wisdom. But we will first take a deep breath in just to ground and just to be very conscious to get into that space, okay? whenever you feel ready.
You just brought up a second ago about being happy with where you are. And having worked alongside a lot of entrepreneurs and type A personalities, this one thing that I know I struggle with, and that, a lot of other people that are in the early stages struggle with as well, because, we all want things. Instant gratification is a real thing. And we really would like things to happen a lot faster. So, after going through what I've gone through over the past 10 years, dealing with addiction, being a father and a husband, and learning business and patience and all of these things, one of the most important things is to realize that you are where you are because of the decisions that you've made, the choices that you've had in your life, and that there is no other possibility besides the ones that have led you to this point. You couldn't be any further. And, I like to think that I couldn't be any further behind either. So what I've made it a goal in my life is just to continue to make progress. Just the little things. We kind of have a tendency to make this huge list of things and goals that we want to accomplish with our lives. And then we look at the list and we get a little bit discouraged. There's a lot to do. There's still a lot that I have to do. And I'm far from the version of myself that I know that I'm capable of being as a leader and a father and a husband, a communicator and a business person, and reaching the level of true success that I know is possible for me. But I'm just as far in the process as I could possibly be right now. And there's no other possibility. So if you're listening to this and I know you've had a feeling similar to this, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. You're right exactly where you're supposed to be. So just keep pushing forward. Doing the little things are what create the results. It's okay to have these big, crazy dreams for yourself and ambitions and all the things that you know that you're capable of being. Now it's just the daily steps and activities and disciplines and habits that you slowly start to integrate into your life that's going to create that. And just have patience with the process. As long as you're putting in that work, no matter how small it may seem in the moment, it's happening. And you look back over a period of time, it's been 5 years for me, and it seems like it's gone fast. It also doesn't seem like it's ever happening fast enough, but I look back at who I was 5 years ago, and a lot has happened. And I'm proud of the things that I've done, even though I know I still got a long ways to go.
Wow. I know there is at least one person that is listening to this right now that really needed that message. So thank you so much. What a beautiful message. I mean, I even received that too, because we're human beings at the end of the day. And we do need that reminder to just stop and pause and to smell the flowers, to be present, to just enjoy how far we've come. Because we do work really hard on ourselves on the outside, but what about the inside? Can we also take care of our hearts, our minds, our bodies, and just take it slow and just to enjoy the journey? It's not always just about the destination. It's about the walk to the destination. So, Jefferson, how can people reach out to you? What's the best way if somebody wants to work with you, follow your platforms? And I know that, guys, I already pre-recorded an introduction, and I have all of that good stuff in there with, you have a home services business and all of that good stuff, and you do window replacements. So what are the best ways for people to get in touch with you, whether it's for home services, whether it's, you're not mentoring, are you? Are you a mentor?
I do executive coaching and business consulting.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so let us know. What are the best ways for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, best way is Instagram. I do keep up on the other platforms, but I'm typically not as responsive as Instagram. And also I have my cell phone right on my bio on Instagram. So I have people.
Really? You have your actual cell phone on there?
My actual cell phone. Yep.
Oh, wow.
So I have people reaching out to me. I may not always be able to do this because I have people reaching out to me almost every day. Mm-hmm. But, I love helping people. I've yet to really make any money from the thousands and thousands of dollars I've spent on putting content out and sharing my message. It's more about just making an impact and building a brand and being authentic. And, people reach out to me all the time with questions on business and family and marriage and addiction. Jefferson K. Rogers is where you can find me on Instagram, and I'm also on a bunch of the other platforms.
And I'll link everything below, you guys. So you will have his Instagram, his TikTok. I don't know if I should put your phone number. I'm not going to do that. If you want his phone number, you can go to his Instagram, but make sure you follow him at least. That's the least that you can do. But Jefferson, thank you so much for your vulnerability and your honesty and just your beautiful energy. And you have impacted this podcast in this episode. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on.
It's my pleasure. All right, you guys, have a wonderful day, and just know that I'm sending you all the divine love and support. Take care.
Thank you for being a part of the Finding the Oasis Within experience. You can follow and reach out to us on our Instagram page at Finding the Oasis Within. You can also subscribe to our Spotify and Apple Music accounts so you never miss an episode. Remember, we are in this together. One breath, one heart, one soul.